Okay, I wasn't able to find very many videos from people who have ordered Tesla solar panels when I was looking for them on YouTube, and also videos from people who don't already own Teslas and basically guys who'd be willing to undergo a sex change to have Elon Musk's babies. I was really struck by how much of a quasi-religion Tesla has become. So I'm getting Tesla solar panels. I'm getting the largest installation that they offer, which is a 16 kilowatt installation that comprises 48 solar panels. It's going to cover something like 3/4 of my roof. So why Tesla? So my first instinct would be to try and do as much of it as I could myself. I did some research into solar panels about a decade ago, and I'm fairly comfortable with electrics, with things like inverters and chargers and running electrical circuits, that sort of thing. But the issue here in South Florida, where I live, is pulling the permits, and more the issues with windstorm loading and stuff like that, and the complexities you're going to get into with the Palm Beach County Office of Inspection. So that kind of got me to decide that I wasn't going to do it myself, that I was going to contract someone. I was watching a video from a guy called Guerrero Lopez out in California, who'd done it himself, and he had done a follow-up video a year later saying that he kind of wished he hadn't bothered to go through all the difficulties and the mistakes that he'd made, given that it is now so cheap to do it with Tesla. And he's right. Just to give you an idea, if you were to go on to a solar retail site and price up a system of a given size, you would find that after you get your federal tax incentives, you're really hardly paying any more to have Tesla come and do it for you. So the question then would be, well, why don't you have a local installer come and do it? And I live in South Florida. It's a very scammy place. There are people come to my door trying to convince you to sign up for schemes, not to make you an offer for a solar installation, but to get you to agree that they would put panels on your roof that they own, and effectively they become your electric utility. And it's all a little bit dodgy. And because of my distrust of local businesses here in South Florida, I kind of figured that things can only go so wrong if you do it with someone like Tesla, because they have a kind of a national reputation to protect, and with the internet and YouTube, if they start screwing people over too badly, it's going to become very public and would harm their brand. So that's the logic of it. And the other reason is that Tesla are very, very cheap. And Elon Musk's goal has been to price everyone out of the market. So he made some statements in a Tesla shareholder video about how he is bringing the price down to $1.49 per watt after federal tax incentives, and that is cheaper than anyone else. Now, how does he make it so cheap? A few ways. Way number one is really reducing your options. In principle, you only get 4 system sizes when you go to their website. That would be an approximately 4, 8, 12, or 16 kilowatt system comprised of 12, 24, 36, or 48 standard panels. I believe the panels are 340 watt. And we'll get into this in a little bit more detail, but they actually don't disclose the system design. They don't tell you whether you're getting solar panel strings, which I believe is the older approach to doing this, microinverters, or I believe there's one specific company does what are called solar optimizers. So you don't find out about that, and that technological detail could have a bearing on the actual performance of your solar panel system. just because a panel system is nominally 16 kilowatts, what that means is if every panel was having the sun shine on it at a perfect angle, at a perfect ambient temperature, then that's what you would generate. But even on a sunny day in August in South Florida, you're not going to be generating 16 kilowatts from the system. You might generate something like 14 kilowatts. So what I want to do is talk through the experience so far and to tell you where I'm at. So you go on the website and you select the solar panel option, you tell them where you live, and at least in my experience, they immediately offer you the largest system and suggest that you also get 4 Tesla Powerwall 2 units at a significantly increased cost. I am not convinced about the utility for me or anyone who doesn't live in somewhere like California of a Tesla Powerwall 2 battery backup. The negative, if you don't go for the Tesla Powerwall 2, and I believe you have to get 2 of them, and I can't quote you the price, but I'm going to guess it's something north of $20,000. I may correct that in the comments below. When you do that, what you get is your solar array continuing to function when your utility grid goes out. If you don't get the Powerwall 2 pair, then, and this is a little bit disappointing, but that's the way it is, if power goes out on the street, your PV array, your photovoltaic array, is also cut off. The reason being, without putting in additional equipment, is that you potentially could be sending out AC electricity into the street and could electrocute someone who's attempting to work on the grid and restore electrical power. So that makes sense. So you go on their site, you're given the option to select one of their 4 sizes and to select potentially additional Powerwalls. And at that point, you place an order. And what that really means is that you give them a credit card on which they can charge $100. And I was really a little bit reticent about that. I thought, I'd like to talk to them first and make sure that this can all happen before I start spending money. But I guess the notion is one of the ways they save money and reduce costs is to try and filter out time wasters. Time wasters cost time and money. So I paid my $100. At that point, you receive some emails and you are required to do a self-survey. And that means that you have to go into your garage and outside of your house and take some photographs. You take some photographs of your electrical meter. You want a close-up where any textual information, any display information on the meter can be read. Then you take some steps back and take a wide angle of the location of the meter. I believe that is because they're likely to put your solar inverter on an outside wall and want to put it next to the meter. I think what's going to happen is that your power feed will come through the meter, be diverted through the solar inverter, and then carry on towards your panel. So they need that sitting off to the side of the meter. You are then asked to take some photographs of your roof from ground level. And I took a few photographs from ground level, specifically the areas that I thought would be the optimal locations for panels. And I also got on the roof and took some other photos, but they limit you on the number of photos that you can upload, so don't go crazy. And then you have to also take photographs of your panel, your main breaker panel, and they want, again, a photograph at some distance. I think that's probably for when they want to sell you some Powerwalls. Then you want a close-up of the breakers, and if the breakers don't have labeling information on them, they want a photograph of any labeling which indicates the size of breakers and the circuits that they are being used on. So for example, water heater, air conditioning, stove, bathrooms, bedrooms, kitchen, etc. And the one other thing they're interested in is what would be called your service disconnect. Now, in my case, and in the case of many people, it's actually the main breaker at the top of the panel. But in certain cases, you might find that you have an additional box outside next to the meter that contains a big kind of pull switch, which allows you to disconnect your service. I think the other way that electricians disconnect the service, if they come to your house, is they actually pull the meter out, because that effectively disconnects your electricity. But there's a seal on that, and I don't think it would be viewed too positively by your utility if you cut that seal and pull the meter. So that was what I had to do. I think I had to sign some other kind of acknowledgement form. I think basically recognizing that it's my job to clear this with my homeowners association, if I have one, and I do. And at that point, you're told that some time will go by and that you will receive a design from Tesla indicating the locations of the solar panels which they think will be optimal on your roof. A big concern for me was that I looked into the bylaws and the code for Florida, and I'd seen it written that you are not allowed to place solar panels inside a 3-foot perimeter around the edge of your roof. So that would be the ridge, the gutter, or the drip edge, if you want to call it that, and the sides of a gable end. And unless you live in a very, very large house, if you take 3 foot off every side of a roof space, that doesn't leave much area for solar panels. So I actually took a drive around, or ride around in my bicycle, and I went to talk to the only neighbor in my immediate neighborhood who has solar panels, and I observed immediately that his panels on the back of his house run down to the bottom of the roof to the drip edge. And in the neighborhood over, I observed panels that run all the way up to the ridge and all the way to the edge of the gable end. So my feeling is that although that might be a written regulation, it doesn't seem to be one that is applied. And while I can understand the regulation for the ridge of a roof, because if this is South Florida and we get high winds, everything's supposed to be rated for 170 miles per hour. The ones for the side and lower down, I really can't understand. I don't think it really makes much difference where the panels are on the roof. Air is going to get under them and it's going to create uplift. And I don't think being 3 feet or 2 feet or 1 feet from the bottom or the side is going to change that. So that was done on the Monday, and as of Friday, I got my design. And I was generally happy with it, with the exception of the location of 4 panels. Now, there are 48 panels, and the idea is that you place panels on south-facing roof faces or areas primarily, and then your next best options are east and west, taking into consideration the potential for shade, which is usually going to be caused by vegetation unless you live next door to a tower. And so I've only got a very small part of my roof which is south facing over the garage. The rear of the house is west facing, and it's a simple roof without too many gable projections. The front of the house is ridiculously over ornate. I have the garage projecting out, I have a porch projection, I have a bedroom projection. So the roof is altogether too fancy and broken up, and that isn't really conducive to a good roof for solar panels. There's a lot to be said for a very basic roof design on a house. So something in the literature I was reading suggested that there's an opportunity to review the design with Tesla, but there's nothing which says exactly how that's going to happen, and this is where you get into some of the issues. I was given the name of a gentleman, Joel Hurd, who is my project manager. I didn't get his email address. I didn't get a phone number. And so the idea I have is that you're probably discouraged from being too chatty and taking up too much of the time of this person. Again, this is for cost savings. They try to cookie cutter these, and they want you to probably bother them and be as little trouble as possible. It turns out late last night I got another email which is about the need for me to sign certain planning application documents and for those signatures to be notarized. This can apparently be done online with a microphone and a webcam. But the email also included the email for this Joel Hurd guy, so I was then able to email him with a couple of concerns that I had, and the two concerns were the placement of the panels and also the fact that I don't know much about the technology that I'm going to be getting. So we'll see if I actually get a response to that. And for now, I'd say I'm fairly happy. I would be happier if I knew I was getting a system with optimizers or a system with microinverters and not a system with strings, which is the least efficient. And my big concerns now are getting approval from my HOA. I have a suspicion that they are not allowed to block an application for a solar panel installation, because that is something that HOAs would typically do, and it could prevent the rollout of solar panels across the nation. And after that, my major concern is going to be roof penetration. I have a concrete barrel tile roof. What they're supposed to do is to mount the rails by putting lag bolts into the trusses. The trusses are under the tile, under 2 layers of tar paper and plywood. So I don't know exactly how they're going to be able to locate the trusses to sink the lag bolts into them, to secure the rails such that when the wind blows, the panels and the rails and possibly part of my roof don't get ripped off. So, and the other concern, of course, is leaks caused by roof penetration. And obviously everybody likes a waterproof roof, but it's more important in South Florida than it is in California. And so my intention is to go up with a hose pipe and to give my roof a severe watering once those standoffs for mounting the rails have been put in place. It can be quite complicated if you've got a complete solar installation to get them to take the panels off so that they can start looking at fixing the roof leak, and the roofers won't take the panels off, so there would be a need to coordinate. And you can imagine that if you've already paid your money and Tesla have moved on, that you might not be getting quite the attention that you would want. The other thing is, of course, I haven't paid them the money beyond the $100 yet, and I'm not quite sure when that's going to happen. And I do need to sort that out, to have the money available. So far, I'm pretty happy, but I thought it would be worthwhile somebody providing some first-hand experience, and especially someone who's not what I would rather vulgarly term a Tesla nut hugger. So there we are for now, and there'll be some follow-ups once I get through things like getting the HOA approval and if there's anything to comment on it with regard to permitting. Okay, good night everybody, I'll talk to you soon.